Hello and welcome back to another episode of Potluck Wrap Up. This is where I put all the titles of the books that I've read into this teapot. I then take a name out of the teapot, I have no idea which one it's going to be, and I wrap it up for you. I have books in here since June, and having them all stacked up in front of me is kind of overwhelming, especially because although I have done 1 month before, I thought, oh, I'll leave it till the end of the year and then I'll just wrap up every book that I haven't had a chance to wrap up in one big video at the end of the year. And the stack, I mean, I'm reading more than I'm wrapping up, is what I'm saying. That's the TLDR of this. I'm going to get my timer for 20 minutes so that I don't ramble on. It was okay. We're going to click go and then I'm going to wrap up some books. I read quite a bit in September, but they were more like chunky books as opposed to a lot of books, so I think that's one of the other reasons it looks such a chaotic mess here. So the first one I'm going to wrap up is Vampirates, Demons of the Ocean, which is actually a book I read in July. Now, I originally did this as part of a vampire vlog. I wasn't necessarily going to wrap it up as it was one of the 3 books that I picked and the only one that I finished, but I just wanted to say that actually if you've been following along with the Skullduggery read along, I would recommend Justin Stumper. I'm pretty sure they're agented by the same person, or they're certainly very similar in writing styles. They do get compared quite a lot, but this is a vampire narrative where a set of twins find out that after their father has passed away, the lighthouse that they work in is basically going to be taken away from them, and they decide to run away rather than be adopted by creepy people that live in the village, which is fine because I've read the series of unfortunate events. I would escape too if I could, but unfortunately they try to escape in their father's boat, and this storm hits and they are separated, and it kind of becomes this like 12th Night meets vampires type narrative where the twins get separated. They both end up with pirates except the sister, whose name is Grace. It's been a while. Grace ends up with vampirates, who are pirates that are also vampires, and they feast on people, but she is saved by this particular vampire who doesn't want to feast on her for whatever reason, and the captain of the ship kind of takes her under his protection. However, then the 2 pirate ships start fighting and it becomes this whole drama, and it was actually really good. Like, I was really pleasantly intrigued by this one, so much so that I did go out and buy the next 5 books, plus the front covers are really pretty. It's a really fun middle grade. I rated it about 3.5 to 4 stars. It wasn't nearly as exciting as I remember it being. I remember reading this as a kid and thinking this was just wild and like there was fighting and smooching. There was no smooching. No smooching. Where did the smooching go? So I'm hoping the more I read, the more, you know. But I appreciate that it's a middle grade, and really I'm trying to force my Twilight expectations onto a middle grade, and that's not fair on middle grade. It didn't affect my rating. I still really enjoyed it. Nothing wrong with a bunch of smoochies is all I'm saying. So there we go. That's the first book, short and sweet. I might meet my average today of 7. Who knows? The second book that I'm going to be reviewing is Eric by Terry Pratchett. So this is the 4th. This is the 4th in the Rincewind series, don't mind me. I do keep track of the series that I read. So essentially Terry Pratchett wrote like 40 or 50 books, and they were all set in the Discworld, and they all follow different characters. So rather than try and reread them in chronological order and try and take on all of these different characters and all the different worlds, I thought I would do series by series, and I finally picked up the 4th book in the Rincewind series. I only have 2 more, maybe 3 books to go in the Rincewind series, and I'm also collecting the really pretty hardbacks. As you can see, this one was teeny tiny. This is about a young boy called Eric who thinks that he has summoned Rincewind as a demon, except Rincewind isn't a demon, he's just a very bad wizard, and they kind of get escorted through different planes of existence every time Eric makes a wish, and Rincewind for some reason is able to grant this, and it's just whimsy and magic and just a really good time. And I just love Terry Pratchett's style of writing, and I think my favourite bit of this is actually in the beginning, because Death is a character in this, which makes it perfect for Gothtober if you're still looking for books with death in them. And he is getting this real grudge against Rincewind, and I'm just like really enjoying it. So basically, in the earlier books, it's set up that whilst Reapers will go and collect the souls of general people, Death himself will arrive to collect the soul of a wizard, because when they die, it's such a catastrophic or cataclysmic event. Usually they're dying in some kind of like exaggerated way or just exciting or whatever. So he makes it a priority to turn up, except Rincewind has evaded death so many times that it's just like he's just annoyed at his very presence. And there's a beautiful scene in the start of this where Death is just tending to his flowers, tending to his bees, and he's just like, it's really, really cute. And then like there's like this weird like shift as Rincewind does something else fucking stupid, and he's just like, it's you again, or something like that. It was so clever and it was so funny, and I just really, really enjoy this style of writing. So yes, I'm back on the Terry Pratchett hype. I will continue this series. I don't know why I keep dropping off. I can only assume it's because I'm really excited about books I haven't read before, whereas these, I'm like, some of them I've read, some of them I haven't, so I'm just trying to like pick them up where I can. They're not a guilty pleasure, but they're like a little booktube pleasure that has nothing to do with booktube whatsoever, because I don't speak to people about Terry Pratchett. So if you've read any of these, like, please hit me up, because they're just so much fun, and they're great. They're great. So that's that one. There we go. Positive so far. There are a couple in here that I will not be quite so positive about, but I'm positive so far, so that's nice. That's nice. Next is going to be Rat Queens, another really positive one. This was a graphic novel that I picked up. When did I pick it up? Did I pick it up last month or the month before? Oh yeah, I picked it up in August, so a while ago. But this is perfect for anyone who enjoys D&D. It's about a group of women who are essentially mercenaries, in the same way that you would be like a D&D party of people and they have to kill monsters and stuff, except someone has betrayed them and they're trying to find out who. And it's the first one in a series. I'm so excited to pick this up. It has great diversity. It's really, really fun. The main character, Hannah, is an absolute bitch, so of course I relate, and it's just a great time. And if you enjoy D&D, or if you enjoy high fantasy or any kind of shenanigans like that, like, definitely pick this up. It's really good. It's a good time. So yes, well done, Rat Queens. Another graphic novel series that I can spend lots of money on. Yay! Next is Through the Woods, another graphic novel that absolutely blew me away. This is a collection of 5 short stories written by Emily Carroll, and then I think she's also done the artwork for them as well, and they are genuinely so creepy. Now, I really struggle with creepy stories that like, I'm so picky when it comes to creepy stories. They have to really like get under my skin. These are so cleverly done, and they feel so inherently spooky, just so spooky. And they're nothing like the Grimm's fairy tales that, as like a modern audience would understand them. They're far more like Grimm fairy tales, like the OG ones, where they haven't necessarily been sanitized for public consumption. It's really dark, it's really spooky, and I would highly recommend it to everyone who needs just some short bursts of spook in their life. It was so good. I was really, really pleasantly surprised, and I think this was one of the ones where I've had it on my TBR for so long that I was just like, I don't know if I can be asked to pick this up now, but actually I'm so glad that I did, because it was great. It was so fun and spook, which is what we love. We love to see it. The more I do nice ones, the more nervous I am that the next one's going to be bad. Oh, Maleficent 7. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, I'm doing the read-along, the Dead Famous read-along, where we read the Skullduggery Pleasant books. Now, this is a spin-off which follows Tanith Lowe, who is one of the main characters. Now, I'm not going to go too much into the narrative of this, because if you haven't read the books prior to this, it will give you spoilers. It's not necessarily one you have to read to understand the full series. If you're like, okay, there are like 6 or 7 spin-off books, which I think there are, I don't want to have to go through all of those, as well as the 15 books in the series. I totally understand. I am also a commitment phobe. No shade here, but I really enjoyed this because Tanith Lowe is such an amazing character, and in this something has happened to her that basically has taken away her soul, so everything she does is just so fucking badass, and there's just no moral compass whatsoever, so you have no idea what she's going to do next. It's a really short read, it's a really easy read, and it's just really fun. You probably couldn't go into this cold. Like, you probably would need to read at least the first few Skullduggery Pleasant books to really understand Tanith Lowe and her motivations. Because it's a spin-off, it is one of those ones where like you would need to know the series, but I really enjoyed it, and I decided to add it because I don't get an opportunity to necessarily wrap up Skullduggery, because where I keep them for the book club and the read-along, I don't want to have to like, I don't want to be constantly repeating myself. Every month I'm going to be reading a Skullduggery book, and every month I'm going to really enjoy it. So the fact that this was a spin-off, I really appreciated that Derek Landy gave us the perspectives of the villains. Like, this is such a fun villain story. The fact that the villains are always just slightly ahead of the protagonist just makes you root for them more, and they've all got their own personal drama, and it's just so cleverly crafted. So Derek Landy is a hero, and we love this. Okay, I'm actually not doing too bad, and I think it's just because they're all good books. If I can keep this time, I will probably get 10 done, which would be my personal best of 9. So let's keep it going. How to Kill Your Family. Oh my god, I love this book. This, I'm telling you now, this is going in my top 10 at the end of the year. It's so much fun. This is like a how-to guide contemporary, but going step by step through, following this character whose name oh no, it is Grace. For a second then I thought her name was Hannah as well, but I'm getting that confused with The Murder of Graham Catton, where the main character in that is also Hannah. Maybe I should just do a list of books where the main character is called Hannah and she's a massive bitch, because clearly that's something this narcissist really enjoys. Anyway, so How to Kill Your Family. Essentially, this character Grace, she grew up with her single mom. She knows that she is the daughter of a international billionaire. But the billionaire wanted nothing to do with her or her mother the moment her mother came pregnant, so she has had to grow up without a father. Now, when her mum dies of cancer, she decides to take it upon herself to destroy the family that abandoned her. And it's so good because it's so like, it's pathological, but you agree with her, and like she's empathetic and it's funny, and because it's like got this contemporary vibe as well, like she talks about like her job and her clothes and her life, because those things matter to her. They don't matter to her as much as killing her family, which is really fun, but like they matter to her. She is a whole person and it's so good. And then of course the twist is, all of this she's telling you from the perspective of a prison diary, because she has been arrested and convicted for a murder she did not commit, and she's super annoyed about it because here are the 6 murders she did commit. And it's just so much fun. It's such a fun murdery book, and I don't know if that's an oxymoron, it probably is, but I just loved it. It was such an easy pace to read. The audiobook is also really, really good. The plot twist at the end kind of irritated me, but it also felt like, okay, I will just say this. If you've seen the original Italian Job, that ending and the frustration you feel at that ending is the frustration you'll feel at this ending. That's not to say it's a bad ending, but just that it was... But if you've seen the film, you'll understand the reference. If you haven't, don't panic. Just read the book, because it's so good. So yes, 5 stars, loved it. It was spectacular. And I'm really glad, because I got this as an NetGalley ARC originally, and then immediately pre-ordered the hardback, because it was just, oh, it's perfection. It's absolute perfection. Yeah, 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. Next is going to be Firekeepers Daughter. Another great book. Now, I originally gave this 4 stars, but the more I think about it, the more I want to give it 5 stars. This is another contemporary mystery. This is about a young girl who is biracial. Her family are part white and they're part, I want to say Chippewa tribe, or Ojibwe. I'm definitely saying that wrong. And I listened to the audiobook as well, but it was a while ago, so I feel like I'm getting it wrong. So essentially, she's part white, part indigenous. So there are lots of closed cultural practices that she knows about and she experiences, but is not necessarily allowed to fully get involved with, which as a white reader in this felt like a really interesting gateway into a society I know next to nothing about, but without it feeling like cultural appropriation. Its own voices, it has disabled rep, it has, I think it has LGBTQ rep at some point. I might be pulling that out of nowhere, but I'm almost certain that there are some characters where they talk about LGBTQ stuff as well. But essentially, she gets caught up in an investigation when her best friend is murdered in front of her, and she knows who did it and she knows why it happened, but she needs to find the evidence that will bring this drug syndicate down. And the closer it gets to who she thinks it might be, there's all these like plot twists and turns, and it was just magnificent. It was, again, such a fun read because it was really, really tense, but it was really, really personal as well. Like, it's definitely more on the contemporary side than it is the mystery side. She is, as a character, both an athlete and a scientist, so her pragmatic way of dealing with things was really, really interesting. But on the back of that, I will just say, trigger warnings, there is a scene where she is sexually assaulted. And I didn't know that going in, and I found it really, really hard with how it is then dealt with, and I think that's one of the reasons it went from a 5-star to a 4-star for me, because I just found that really, really hard to process. I'm hoping that if that is something that you are triggered by, knowing about it going in means that it won't be a problem. It is a facet of the story. It is one of the things that irritated me. One of the very, very few things that irritated me is it's used as a plot point, and it's almost like it just didn't need to happen. That whole plot section didn't need to happen. It was almost just for an additional shock value, as if murder and drugs wasn't shocking enough. So that would be my only issue with it. But I'm hoping that if you go on to read this, that actually it won't bother you in the same way, because you're going in forewarned and thus forearmed. But I really, really loved this. I don't know why I thought it was going to be a fantasy. I assume probably just because I'd heard people loved it but not actually heard anything about the plot, and the front cover looks very fantastical. But I loved it. It was great. 10 out of 10 again. Yeah, I will probably bump this back up to 5 stars because I think it deserves it, to be honest. The more I think about it, the more I think it deserves 5 stars, which for me, 5 stars is I have an emotional attachment to this book now. You cannot take it away from me, and I feel like you will have to pry this from my cold dead hands. I just think it's great. So yes, yeah, it will go up to 5. I think that's only fair. Next we have Dreams of Gods and Monsters. Another really good one. This is the 3rd in the A Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy. So I'm not going to go into the narrative of it, because if you haven't read it, do. I was really worried after the 2nd one, because the 2nd book in the trilogy really it didn't upset me, it lost me a little bit. The 3rd one brings it home. It was incredible. The fight scenes are so well choreographed. There's the emotion there that I enjoyed from the 1st one. There's the beautiful writing style. Now, I did in my Addie LaRue wrap up describe Addie LaRue as a poor man's Laini Taylor, and I think I stand by it, because this was just so magical. The writing style is effortless. There's a whole bunch of metaphors in it, but it's so beautifully crafted and so well thought about that actually it was just, oh god, it was just magical. I loved it. So this was another one that just, for me, just absolutely understood the assignment. It knew what it needed to do. As a finale, it was perfect. It was fucking enormous, but as a finale, it was perfect. And I gave this, I think I either gave this 4.5 or 5 stars. So excellent work, Laini Taylor. We'll be picking up more books. I've heard that Strange the Dreamer and Muse of Nightmares are slightly different, but I'm hoping that because it's Laini Taylor's writing style that I will just really enjoy them, because I've already bought them. I finished these and I immediately bought them, so here's hoping for me. It's so easy to wrap up books I enjoyed, but now the pile of books that I didn't enjoy is getting bigger. Cricket Kingdom was okay. I enjoyed this. I enjoyed it more than I enjoyed Six of Crows. But I enjoyed it less than the other books that I've read, so I feel it feels kind of anticlimactic to now pick this one up. But obviously this is the sequel to Six of Crows. It follows all the characters from the original Kazbrekker crew. I like that Kazbrekker is less of an arsehole in this one. In fact, all of the characters are just slightly less arseholey in this one. I really enjoy that Jesper kind of gets to be like main character for his chapters. Like, he really seems to own those pages. I love that for him. It was a shame that the Nina Nikolai storyline kind of had to take a back seat to everything else, and because she's dealing with the shit from the 1st book, I'm trying really hard not to spoil, it does kind of negate from that, which is a shame because she was my favourite character in the 1st one. So yes, but I felt like this was nice because again it had a really satisfying ending, and it was a really well paced book as well. Again, it has like the drama of heist type narrative without it being overly done or convoluted or anything. So I really, really enjoyed this. I have decided, however, I will not be picking up King of Scars or that series, even though it follows like additional characters. I think from this series and from the Shadow and Bone series. I think for me, Six of Crows and Cricket Kingdom are a fluke in regards to Leigh Bardugo's YA for me, and probably because they lean more towards the adult writing style. I really, really enjoyed Ninth House, so I think as far as Leigh Bardugo goes, I will probably just stick to her adult novels now. I will probably not pick up anything else from the Grishaverse because it's just not the YA writing style that I enjoy. It was good, but I'm done with the YA stuff now as far as I'm concerned. That pile is getting big. It's good, but that Okay. Thinking about it only makes it worse. Again, this is even more anticlimactic. I was thinking about this as I piled it up. I don't remember anything from this book. This is a... I mean, that's... What an anticlimactic ending. After all those amazing reads, what an anticlimactic ending. So thinking about it only makes it worse is essentially a collection of articles that David Mitchell has written for whichever newspaper it is that he works for. I think it's The Guardian. I think it's Guardian and then Faber published them. But essentially, because it's a bunch of essays, it's on a whole bunch of different things that were all kind of... They weren't his opinion because he's not giving enough of his opinion for anyone to be mad at him. It's just kind of like a comical commentary. The fact that I don't remember anything about what he actually said, I think goes to show how much I don't care about this book. Like, I gave it 3 stars. I enjoyed it. I know that it made me laugh. I know that there were things that had me being thoughtful. I know there are things that I went and then talked to my family about. But as far as what's in it, couldn't tell you. Couldn't tell you. So that's disappointing. And it's even more disappointing that on the back of some really fantastic reads, that's what I finish on, because yeah, that's hella anticlimactic. But I mean, that's my personal best now, isn't it? I don't even know how many that is. I think that's like, how many is that? Ow, get my hair caught. 10! 10, a new personal best. So there we go. There's all the books that I read and wrapped up in the last few months. We still have a few, not nearly as many as I thought, but unfortunately it's all the ones that I wanted to be negative about. So we're potentially going to have another video like my Addie LaRue wrap up, where I decide to just slate a whole bunch of books really aggressively. The ones of these that are available via Waypoint, the links will be down below, so feel free to treat yourself. Make sure you like and subscribe and all those other good things so that you can see more of my content in the future. And other than that, have a nice day.